For me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.
What's going on? Seth Velocity back at it. We're going to talk about the second and third round of the NBA playoffs. As you might have previously saw in one of the other videos, we talked about the first round of the playoffs. So this is second and third round leading up to the NBA Finals. Would you like to say anything to the people before we start?
Everyone, just ready to jump right on in and rock and roll.
All right, so let's start with the.
I have a special request.
Okay.
Let's start off with the Sixers and the Heat.
Sure.
And there's a big reason why I'm doing this. Everyone, this year I went to my very first NBA playoff game. And man, was it amazing. I even got this free t-shirt from the Wells Fargo Center at the game. And I mean, it kind of ripped my heart in two, but wouldn't have wanted any other way. I got to see my two favorite teams going at it. My actual favorite team, which is the Miami Heat, and my home team, because there's another team who I refuse to call my home, with the Philadelphia 76ers. And man, it was so great to see Embiid's return game, him putting on the mask. He came right on time because I had bought those tickets ahead of time too. I would have been mad if he didn't suit up. But I saw Jimmy Buckets pop off, but the Sixers managed to pull off a win, did not get swept. But overall, that series, let's be real, Embiid was 60% of himself at best. He did not have a single great game. We could tell the injuries between his knee, his hand, and even worse, the fractured orbital, because he got hit in the face right in that eye every night he played as well. The very last game, like with James Harden, all I gotta say is this: he straight up quit on the Sixers. He quit on them. He only took 2 shots in the second half and missed both of them. Tyrese Maxey, so much credit to you. You played your heart out in this series. So much respect. Like we don't need any more from. Well, obviously, we want you to get better, but you gave us everything. You did your job and more. To be honest, I believe. And same Shake Milton in that last game, he even came out with hitting some big shots toward the end, trying to close it out. And Embiid, again, you're hobbled. Obviously, nobody will say this was a good series for you. You clearly weren't at your best, and you didn't play at your best. But at the very least, in that last game, I didn't agree with your shot selection, like taking so many threes. I'm sure a big part of that is you didn't want to get beat up in the post too much, getting hit in the face so much, risking the doctors telling you can't be on the court anymore if you keep getting hit in the eye. But I saw you out there really trying to will your team to win. Like, I saw the effort. You were diving on the floor. You took a lot of shots. Like, no, we could not accuse you of quitting. So it was a disappointment for the Sixers, but hey.
Well, as usual, the Sixers did what the Sixers always do, and they lost in the second/third round of the playoffs. Back at it again. They'll be there next year.
Bro, you're giving them way too much credit. They haven't made it to the third round. It's
yeah, you're right.
The second round.
You're right. You know, it's just a team with so much talent. You expect more.
This year was just super unfortunate. Like, literally, there's a curse. No, well, actually, this year we can blame it on. Can't we both agree it's Doc Rivers' fault?
I mean, I think it's two people's fault, and you know exactly who those two people.
Yeah, Doc Rivers and James Harden.
Yeah, James Harden.
He had that epic Game 5 where he looked like the old James Harden for a second. And then back to the good old bull jive that he was showing this year.
You guys thought the Nets played everyone. James Harden, man. The picks and the assets people have given up for James Harden over the last 2 years between the Nets and the Sixers. Oh man. I mean,
all for him to just go partying with them strippers in Miami.
Yeah, as long as we can get that next win to get sent to Miami at least one last time. Unbelievable.
Yeah. But hey, James Harden, I would love to turn up with you though, my brother.
I'll pass. You're a fraud. I'm just looking at some of the stats from the games. So I I have the whole series stats right in front of me.
Yeah, I'm also going to point out we clearly saw how important Embiid is to that Philadelphia roster, though. Like we saw a completely different Sixers team between Embiid being on the just being present on the floor and him not being there.
So
Oh, I also want to point out in Embiid's return game while I was there in the arena, I found it hilarious. The whole Sixers fan base when they were announcing the players, they got cheered, but when they announced Doc Rivers' name, the whole arena booed him. I wonder
yeah,
why.
I think I think Doc Rivers has completely mismanaged this team. I will, however, give credit to Tyrese Maxey, who is arguably
Hmm.
um,
The
one of the
second best
best.
player on the team.
Well, one of the
Hmm.
best young players in the NBA in general too. I think that
Absolutely.
he gets to be put in the conversation with. Give me a second. I'm trying to think of a good example. Um, I think I could put him in the conversation of like the Anthony Edwards versus just young future
Yeah.
potential. Like
Yeah.
obviously not
Him.
the Luca threshold,
Yeah.
but we're gonna put him in the Anthony Edwards threshold where it's like
Maybe a slight tick below Jordan Poole. I think that's a good
right. I
comparison.
think
Yeah.
so. People were arguing between Jordan Poole and Tyrese Maxey, who's better,
I think
and
Poole.
I think Poole too, but Poole's also extremely inconsistent. Where Maxey's always averaging 20 points a game, where Poole switches between 30 and 8 points a game.
But I think this thing is though that with Poole, like bringing Clay back into the lineup, his role kind of like became inconsistent as well. Because we saw Clay
Right.
coming back dribbling the ball a lot more, which we never saw before.
I think Maxey is capable of being better than Jordan Poole though.
Yeah.
So Maxey led the team in scoring points per game out of everyone on the Sixers. Second was Embiid. Obviously, it's a little bit disappointing. Maxey averaged 20, Embiid averaged 19. I don't think that's Embiid's fault. I think it was because he was hurt and he was playing a little bit different. James Harden averaged 18. The fraud who had the scoring title a couple years ago shows up with nothing. No surprises
Hold
there.
up. Can we point something out? 18. That's literally half of what he was averaging. Right? Remember, man was averaging like near 35 points. That's almost exactly half.
Just like Embiid said, he's not the Houston James Harden anymore. So
Yeah. I gotta credit Embiid for one thing, teammate or not, he's gonna keep it real.
yeah. And then we can always talk about Tobias Harris, the fraud power forward, who's really a small forward who scored 16 per game.
Hmm.
I mean, the team was just not great. I think that they came out flat, and I think that it cost them pretty severely. You knew the Heat were going to be on it. Um, and then obviously shout outs to Jimmy Butler for averaging 28 a game, which was way better than the rest of his team. Bam was second with 16, and then Harrell with 14, and Max Struss with 11, Oladipo with 10. But a good team performance outside of Jimmy too, pretty balanced.
Yep.
All right, we're spending too much time on this. Going to the other game, Bucks versus Celtics. That's a tough series. It's a tough
Yeah,
series.
that
That's all
was
I gotta
so
say.
fun to that was so fun to watch. It was just so disappointing to see like the blowout in Game 7. Like we clearly saw Giannis was getting blitzed. In reality, their wins were relying on like the play of like role players like Grayson Allen to like be hitting perimeter shots. And when you don't, role players are always important, but your stars are the ones who are consistent. And
Hmm.
like you can't expect people like Grayson Allen to like consistently have that elite perimeter level play that Giannis needs to complement his game. So Chris Middleton was clearly missed in that series.
Yeah, that's what was missing too, because you knew Giannis was still gonna get his, and Grayson Allen was getting those replacement buckets for Middleton in the first series, and then Grayson Allen fell off in the second series, and it
Yeah.
costed him a lot.
I mean, credit to the Celtics defense too for exploiting that, because I
Yeah,
mean that was a much different level of defense than the Chicago Bulls.
and everyone's gonna hate this because of my bias, but shout out to Giannis because he almost pulled it off.
Yeah.
He was considered the underdog going into the series because he didn't have Middleton, but he almost bodied the entire Celtics team by himself.
Hmm.
Also, shout out to Al Horford for being 36/37 years
Oh,
old, going to the
that
NBA Finals for their first time ever, and having that really resilient game when Giannis was talking to him. So
that was incredible.
yeah. Um, moving on to
Let's go to the West. Yeah.
the West, we have Warriors versus. Let's save that one for last. Actually, that
Okay.
uh, Mavs versus. Oh, you know what?
Suns.
It doesn't matter either way. They're both really good series.
Let's go Mavs versus Suns. I just want to say, I mean, of game one or whatever, I forgot how it went, like the order in which the wins came. But I know I definitely had the Phoenix Suns beating the Mavericks. But when I saw that the Mavericks forced a game, got to a game six, I actually like flipped my pick as saying, I know overall roster wise the Suns will pull it off because I'm not sure about the consistency of the help that Luka will get. But there's something about this kid. I know what he's gonna bring. He just looks like a champ out there in the playoffs. He's built for this. That's how I'm rolling with the Mavericks. And my God, Luka was Luka, but Spencer Dinwiddie, his 30 points off the bench, that was incredible. Jalen Brunson doing his thing. And then let's talk about Game 7, how the Phoenix Suns went ice cold. Well, we saw earlier on Chris Paul, like, because a lot of talk was that like they were exploiting Luka's defensive inabilities. Uh, Um, Chris Paul was incredible at the beginning, but he waned down like later in the series. Maybe we could attribute that maybe to age, to like 37 to go 38 or whatever, but all we know is he dwindled down. But I know why Evans aggravated right now because of the name I didn't bring up, Devin Booker. Book, the guy people wanted to call Kobe 2.0. You looked weak in that series. That was the most unclutch. And you remember both of us were saying this last year, but people don't want to talk about last year in the NBA Finals in Game 7. If Devin Booker was playing like he did in the earlier rounds, or like in Game 1 of that series, or like in the playoffs, just playing like his normal level, not even elevating to like a transcendent level, his normal level that we expect from him, they would have won in that final. But he folded in Game 7 in the NBA Finals. I think we both agree there. And he straight up folded in this series. Like, that was disgusting. And I know I speak for Ev a lot. No more this Kobe comparison. He's not clutch. Sure, he plays aggressive and stuff. We got to play aggressive with IQ and control and have impact. Booker, you're overrated. Floor is yours. I know that you really wanted to cut this up.
So I know that we talked about, James Harden, the Nets, just frauds in general. Well, let me tell you about the biggest fraud in the world. This guy is the biggest fraud I've ever seen, and no one notices it. I swear no one notices it. He goes in there and he scores 15 to 20 a game, and they win every game with the way Chris Paul manages the game. And we're like, this guy's amazing. This guy's the next Kobe Bryant. I can't believe people believe this.
And remember, we were saying that too about last year in the NBA Finals, that Chris Paul was the best player on the Suns. But if they lose, Chris Paul was going to get the blame. And if they won, Booker was going to get all the credit.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something statistically.
I'm just going to put this out. Chris Paul is the best player on the Phoenix Suns. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This moment, no moment. Chris Paul's the best player on the Suns. Sorry, Booker. You're not it.
The player who took the second most shots in the series between the Suns and the Mavericks was McCall Bridges with 69 shots. Devin Booker took 125. It gets better. Out of the 14 players listed on the roster with stats in that series, he was 10th in field goal percentage. He was 10th. So
inefficient.
And by the way, McCall Bridges was 11th, so we'll throw that out there too. Let me just throw out one more thing. Chris Paul was the third most shots, 65 shots. He was 4th in field goal percentage on his team.
Yeah, not bad.
Shot 56% from the field, the entire series.
Great. If anything, what we saw from Chris Paul toward the end was probably a lack of aggression toward the end of the series. But again, maybe with age fatigue, maybe they were relying too much on him offensively when they shouldn't have. When there's a certain light skinned brother on his team who's the face of the franchise who should have been leading the way, given that he's the one who gets all of the hype.
He's a
But
fraud.
yeah,
He
no,
is the
yeah,
biggest
I'm gonna
fraud.
say and you know what annoys me too, Ev? Did you know that on First Take and all these shows, they were talking all about Chris Paul saying, "Oh, we didn't see the whole 30-point game without missing a field goal." They didn't. That's what they wanted to talk about, but barely anything about Booker.
You know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about how Devin Booker played 37 minutes in Game 7, and he
Hmm.
scored 11 points. He scored 11! 11! He shot 3 for 14!
He learned from Paul George.
I'm sorry. I don't think Kobe was. I mean, if that's what you're comparing to Kobe, then you're being extremely
And,
disrespectful.
and let's also take age into account. We seen Kobe in his super young days have bad moments in the playoffs. But again, it was when he was super young and didn't have playoff experience or much experience in the league. And maybe he was let's just say let's throw a number out there, maybe 21, something like that. Devin Booker is 24, correct? He's been in the league a while. You're at a point now where that's not acceptable.
All I'm gonna say is this: if if that's how you're gonna be playing in the playoffs, and let me tell you, if your team, because your team's probably gonna disband eventually once they don't win.
Hmm.
You have games like that in the regular season too. You won't be playing many more playoff games.
Yep.
If you keep it up, that's all I'm gonna say. Because you have found a way to regress. I mean,
In the
he's gotten
play.
worse. In
Yeah.
general, he has gotten worse. He was better last year than he was this year.
Yep.
And I would almost say he was better the year before that than he was. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
No, I don't think so.
He had the 70
But
point game the year before that. But
uh, but still, the third wheel there, DeAndre Ayton. Trust me, there are other teams who would want you. There are other teams that will put you in a great system. Miami.
New York, man.
Trust me, DeAndre. We still see your value, despite the situation. And Chris Paul, still nothing but respect for you.
Okay, let's move to the Warriors versus Grizzlies. We're not going to talk about the Celtics
Yeah.
versus
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the conference finals yet.
yeah.
Go ahead. You go first this time.
I thought it was a good series, but Warriors versus Grizzlies. Sorry, I was thinking about Mavs for a
Mhm.
second. That was probably the most entertaining series for me. I mean, I think the Mavericks have a place in my heart just because I didn't expect them to win. Obviously, the Celtics and Bucks were really good, but it was also unfortunate the result. But the Grizzlies and Warriors, the games were close. You had, I believe it was Game 6 where Ja wasn't playing, and
That's
Grizzlies
game
beat him by
6.
40 or 50 with
Oh no, that wasn't game 6 because that's where it ended. That was game
Game 5.
5.
Game 5. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was crazy. Game 6 was close, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
Um,
Until the end, the last 4 minutes was
uh,
pulled away.
Yeah, John Morant was phenomenal to watch. Obviously, I had the Warriors winning just because I think they have more star power. But seeing the Grizzlies' young core between Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., um, great team. And obviously, John Morant. I would like to say that I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the most underrated players in the NBA.
Yep.
And we don't talk about him enough. I will also give you the floor because I want to look at the stats of something that I want to outline, and you may go ahead.
What I found really interesting about this series is this is where the intangibles and the game of basketball really comes into fruition. In past generation, we see a teams that are this young, majority of their main players on this team are under 25. When they go up against veterans and walking legends a Steph Curry is, because these kids Job, they were growing up fans of Steph. There's a bit of deferentialness or praise towards them, especially like meeting them in the playoffs for the first time. But ever since like they beat them in the playing tournament this year in the regular season, they respect them, but they respect them like with a sense of animosity, saying this is our time. We're here. One, they're enjoying every moment on the court, but they're playing with so much energy and so much physicality. Like it actually like start to expose like some vulnerability the Golden State Warriors. In fact, I think in that series overall, it's the worst shooting percentage we saw from Steph like in the playoffs like in a while. And I mean low for his standard. Like obviously he wasn't shooting like, sub 35%. Well actually I think he might have been like around the 34%. I know you're looking at the stats, so you keep correcting me where I'm wrong. But I know that we're used to seeing him being more in the 40% range. But but yeah, like the physicality, especially Dylan Brooks playing Steph, and then
He
they're
shot
taking shots.
41%.
Steph shot 41% overall in
Yeah.
the series.
Yeah.
Hmm. It must have been a different series. I was thinking about them because I heard like the analysts saying that like Steph is shooting like lower percentage than we're used to. But but yeah, overall the physicality clearly compromised them. They were just in attack mode. Like they were not scared. Even in the closing moments, they played with nothing but pure confidence. Because these guys, not only do they have confidence in themselves, they have confidence in each other too. Like you can literally see them feeding off of each other's energy. Like obviously there comes maturity in the game. Like they're like in closing moments that we don't like certain people decision making. Dylan Brooks. But still, like they're just like, we'll get it back next play. It was just incredible to watch, and this is once again showing the young kids. They're here, like they're saying, this is here. This is our league. The Warriors may have won this, but the Grizzlies, that's loss did not shake their confidence at all. Like I know they want to take them down next year because it's funny how roles flip. Like back when we were in high school, the Warriors they were the young kids because they were not necessarily kids, but they were the younger team. That was fun for everyone to watch and taking on like older guys. Now they're the old. They look like the old heads on the court and having these young kids running rings around them and stuff. Like it was just incredible. I just really wish Ja didn't get hurt because who knows if Ja didn't get hurt, maybe they could have beaten them.
Um, I want to throw out there that it's weird to see the change in generations because you see a lot of the fans complain. They're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, screw the Grizzlies. All they do is gritty on the court and they just, dance and have fun." And it's so
move out
funny.
the way with that.
It's
Yeah,
so funny because 4 years ago, you would see 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer
mm,
too. You'd see videos of Steph Curry doing a baseball pitch with the basketball during warm-ups
yeah,
and stuff, and just mess around. And everyone's like, "Oh, why does he get to, you know, mess
yeah.
around like that?" And it's like,
Him
let players
sticking his
have fun.
tongue out after he makes a shot.
Yeah, it's just players having fun and getting in the competitive spirit. So,
Exactly,
uh,
and they're young. They're under 25. They're young. Like
so
just let them rock.
I just want to know that the big question I have from that series though is who the hell let Dylan Brooks shoot the basketball so much? Because that was my biggest issue. He shot the
They,
ball 76 times. Okay, so Josh shot it. I'm sorry. Jaren Jackson shot it 95 times. That was the
mhm,
most out of anyone on the team. And then
mhm,
second was John Morant with 83, and then third was Dylan Brooks with 76. Now, field goal percentage. John Morant was fourth in field goal percentage. Jaren Jackson
mhm,
Jr. was ninth. He shot, 37%, not great.
mhm.
But we can also see in the final game of the series, he was throwing up a lot of shots in hopes they could come back.
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks shot 30% on nearly 80 shots, 30% even. And I know everyone's like, why is he bagging on this guy? Probably. If you watch that game, you would say, why is he taking half of these shots?
Yeah.
Everyone's
He
asking
did.
the same question.
y- Yeah, even the shots that he did hit, like he hit some incredible
Yeah,
shots, but still, it's like they're not smart basketball shots. But I think more his value on the court, more so like his defense.
of
Like
course.
he was on Steph Curry, like the bumping physicality. Show you getting fouls called on him. But we've seen it in
He
the
was on
past
Gary
where other
Payton, too.
teams. yeah, we see. Oh my God, yeah. When let's not even bother getting into like all of those suspensions. Draymond dancing around the court and all of that stuff. Like, let's just leave that alone because like it was a lot of nonsense happening. But I will also say the way Ja got injured, I never seen a man like
It was
John has
very.
some weak. He has some weak knees. That's all I'll say. A guy pulls your knee and
It
gets
all it all depends on
yeah,
where it happens. It could have been the slightest thing that could have, I mean, you
yeah.
could even tear something doing that, but it's just unlucky.
Yeah, but yeah, they expose the physicality's always been Golden State flaw. Like we see, like they're a perimeter shooting team. They're a finesse type team. They're not a team that like dominates with like imposing physicality. But when teams like hit them with that, I mean, after a while, it slows them down. Like it starts bringing fatigue on early on when you're getting bumped a lot. And and they faced that from the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Let's just say they have another beast to come their way.
You got anything to add?
Nope, that's all.
All right,
Um,
so without further ado, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to, in the next video, do a quick reaction to the conference finals and potentially talk about the NBA finals if there's time for it. And then we're also going to break down the Heat versus Celtics in a specific series. So without further ado, hope you all have a great day. Family, friends, love, whatever you guys got going on. Hope everything is well. And we'll see you later.
For me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.